A week ago, something strange started happening in the apartment above. It's an old converted building, each domicile on a separate floor. It's occupied by friendly enough people, but we hardly keep in touch. It's where we come to rest. A sanctuary. And this is why I was so irritated to hear loud noises so late, like someone was running across the wooden floors. A manic pounding that rumbled through my apartment. I rolled over in bed trying to sleep, but they persisted. Grabbing a broom, I thrusted it into the ceiling to let the occupants know that they could be heard. A new occupant, surely, unfamiliar with how ancient and rickety the building is. The noises stopped, stillness returning once again. Crawling into bed, I promised myself I'd make a friendly introduction in the morning. But the noises resumed. Wild thumps this time. I threw some clothes on and ventured up the stairs. Not wanting to be confrontational, I knocked gently on the door. And there was no answer. "Hello?" I called out gently. "I'm from the apartment below. You might be a little too noisy for this time of night. Could you maybe keep the noise down, please?" No response. I strained my hearing, listening for some sign of activity on the other side of the door. Nothing, no voices, no movement. I swallowed hard, retreating from the door and back downstairs. The following evening, I ventured up to make a friendly introduction. What I heard had me frozen to the spot. A hissing sound. At first I thought it was the plumbing, 100-year-old pipe straining under the water pressure, but this was different. A wheezing, rasping sound. Labored breathing. I heard it moving closer to the door. The shadow of bare feet under the doorframe. And someone was on the other side. When it scratched the wooden door, I bolted downstairs back to safety. I called the landlord, irritated that I had called so late. Demanding to know who the new occupant of the apartment above was, I related the encounters of the previous evening. He sounded confused, because there was no new occupant, and no one had moved in. It took me a minute for it to sink in. Time enough for me to hear something moving outside my apartment door. The wheezing, rasping breaths I heard. The same scratching against the wooden doorframe. I was unable to respond when the thing's fingers began to creep under the door, searching, probing for me. They were long, impossibly long, like roots, wrinkled and crooked, stretching, reaching for the door handle. I grabbed a kitchen knife, slicing at the long, slender tendrils. Black fluid spilled from them as an ungodly howl pierced my ears. They recoiled and the howling abated. I called 911 and told them to bring their patrol rifles with them, but I don't think they listened. I don't think anyone is going to believe me that something horrible is living in the apartment above me, and it's only a matter of time before it comes back. The cops came and went. One skeptical sergeant took the report, while his partner struggled to stifle his laughter. He actually inspected the ashtray on my computer desk for the remnants of blunts or joints, clearly having already decided that what I saw came from a bag or a bottle. After a frustrating recounting, I saw them out, and for a few moments, I felt normal again, almost distracted from the horrors above. And that's when I heard it. The same wheezing noise floating down the stairwell as I ascended. Only this time, it was a jagged sound, almost rhythmic. It was laughing. I couldn't wait. I couldn't just sit there and wait for the thing to come for me again. I took the same sharpened kitchen knife I had used to slice his fingers, and once again ventured to the floor above. All was quiet, a deathly silence as I took hold for the door handle, feeling how freezing cold it was as I turned it. Slowly peering inside, I waited for it to pounce, to grab me with those long tendril fingers, and pull me into the darkness. But nothing came. Nothing stirred. The room was almost pitch black, the only light coming from the twinkling of broken glass, reflecting the moonlight shining through the shattered window pane. Feeling for the light switch, I flicked it, then flicked it again. Nothing. The bulb must have shattered when the thing broke in. Slowly, I reached into my pocket, taking up my smartphone before turning on the flashlight function. The sight that greeted me has filled me with revulsion, even now. At first, I thought it was a kind of fungus, growing big and bulbous in one of the room's upper corners. Yet on closer inspection, it had the rigid texture and cavernous dimensions of a hornet's nest. The light panned slowly across the room as I gently moved my wrist. I was terrified of what I might see next, almost begging myself not to look. I was right to beg. The previous tenant hadn't moved out at all. He was sitting right in front of me, deathly pale, his corpse almost mummified. In his grip was a half-empty bottle of brandy. His eye sockets were hollow and the soft flesh of his lips and cheeks seemed to have been chewed away. Before I could even comprehend the horror of what I was seeing, I heard the familiar wheezing sound again. Instinctively shining the flashlight back into the upper corner, I saw that what I assumed was a fungus or a nest was moving. The thing unfurled itself, still somehow defying gravity as it remained perched up in the corner. Yet it didn't react to me. It moved languidly, lazily. It was weak. It was resting. I pulled the half-empty brandy bottle from the corpse's hand and began to splash the thing with the sweet-smelling liquid. It took all of my fortitude not to just bolt back out of the room as I emptied the bottle's contents and reached for my lighter. I've been telling myself to quit smoking for years now, but in that moment I thank God for having my weak willpower. It burned. God damn, did that fucking thing burn. It wreathed and howled. The smell of its burning flesh filled my nostrils with a sickly sweet funk. It was scared, confused, just as I had been. That felt good. It felt good knowing it was in pain. By the time it threw itself from the window and hurtled to the street below, I actually think I was smiling. But I'm not smiling now, because I know it's still out there. It's out there, waiting, resting. If you find it, kill it. Use fire. Use any goddamn thing. But just kill it. Kill it. Kill it.
Hi.